Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and you may notice it looks a little bit different today. The old work laptop we've been using for a while has finally died a death. The new one we've got does work, but the camera on it is absolute dog poop. And like 12 people watch his YouTube videos, so I'm not going to buy a webcam for them. So you're getting this on my phone until I figure something else out. But I'm going to carry on reviewing stuff because I like reviewing comic books. It's fun. So we're going to review Deviant. Or is it The Deviant? A Christmas story. Yes, very much a Christmas story. And it's nice because it melds a couple of things I really like, horror and Christmas. And yes, I've worked in retail most of my adult life, and yet still I quite like Christmas. I enjoy an awful lot about it. Much to my customers' dismay, I like the music, I certainly like the movies, and I like the fact that winter is always a time for scary stories, so crossing over horror and Christmas stuff makes an awful lot of sense. So, yeah, let's get into it. What does it do well? Why does it work? Well, I'll say, first off, yes, winter is a perfect time for scary stories, traditionally so, and Christmas is often used as a focus for scary stories. Quite often it deals with the mythology of Christmas, which is fun because the mythology of Christmas exists differently in different places. There's a fantastic movie, Dutch movie, I think, called Sint, or something like that, which is well worth your time. But then you also get stuff with various versions of Santa Claus, or the Krampus, or anything. There's so many things you can do. You also have an awful lot of space for slashers at the holidays because people get together, but there's also people separate as well. The weather keeps people apart, and as such, is a nice time to go and do murders. This is very much in the slasher genre, and I'm fine with that. I do like what most people refer to as elevated horror, but I deeply love slashers. Two of my favourite I've watched this spooky season have been Dark Harvest and Totally Killer, both of which have fun with the slasher genre and do interesting things with it. This one, it does some interesting things, but it doesn't really go too far outside of its comfort zone. When it does, though, it does it spectacularly, because this is a really cool, slow burn horror. And I do like my slow burn stories. Don't get me wrong, I like a good jump scare, I like some gore, I like some tension, but if a creative team has the confidence in what they're doing to very, very carefully build up to something, to take their sweet time before we get any hint of what's going on, then I'm going to be paying attention to it. I think the last time I really enjoyed a comic book that did this effectively was That Texas Blood, and this has a lot of that kind of style in it. There is no rush. We don't even get too much scary for quite some time. We have the idea that we're moving at different points in history. We're dealing in December 2023. It's in the future, apparently. And the 73 as well, if I remember correctly. And one of the earliest bits of spookiness comes from a fairly common thing. I think it's actually a name for it, but I forgot what it is at the time. Which is the idea of places which are usually full of people which are empty. Stuff like airports, shopping malls, schools, places where you expect to be bustling, but they are not. Weirdly, I have had a vague experience similar to this at high school. I was in a play, and I was in the chorus line, but I can't sing. So every once in a while, we'd just go and wander off because we didn't have much to do, and nobody missed me. I was terrible. And being in just bits of the school where there was like a murmur of a crowd somewhere, it was still creepy. It's weird. It's an almost universal thing. Like I said, there's actually a name for it. So it's a really good call to start the creepiness on something which is fundamental to everyone's experience, or most people's experience. I think everyone would be creeped out by this. I think it sets the tone really quite nicely. We then do get some gore. But throughout the entirety of the first issue, we don't see any violence. We see the after effects of it, and it is particularly well done. It looks spectacular and unsettling. On one particular occasion, a guy, I think in his tighty whities, with his eyeballs taken out. So yeah, there is violence happening, but it's not done lurid. And that's the next bit that I really quite like, because a huge chunk of the comic book is far more Mindhunter than anything else. Because this is a slasher, think serial killer, it is just somebody sitting down and interviewing him, I think. I mean, there's some ambiguity there. I'm fairly sure the person who's getting interviewed is the killer. But there's certainly room for movement on that storyline, and I hope to see some interesting developments with it. But one of the reasons I'm a little bit dubious about Mindhunter, or was when I first started watching it, was I find the idea of true crime being made lurid and sensational a little bit distasteful. There are exceptions to it, Mindhunter being a spectacular one, and I quite like My Friend Dharma, but I feel like the fact that this is totally made up, they could just go for sensationalism if they wanted. But the creators really slowed it down and took their time and gave a chance for the characters to breathe and do some little bits of world building and relationship building. And if you're thinking right now, I've been talking about the writing an awful lot, because let's face it, it's Tinian, if I remember correctly, James Tinian IV, who is one of my favourite horror writers. I don't want anyone to think I'm not giving credits to the artist. This is Joshua Hickson, who does a spectacular job. His pacing by layouts are phenomenal. The bit where we see our first interaction with violence, it takes so long to get to, and then we get to another point, and again it takes so long. It's followed by a splash page which is minimalist and horrifying in equal measure. It is a genuinely beautiful comic book, to say how simple it looks at times. I don't think there's a single bit of framing or a single bit of effort put into the art which is wasted or not done with intention to add to the story. Genuinely love this comic book. Cannot wait for the rest of it. If spooky Christmas stuff is your bag, I really hope you manage to get hold of a copy of this, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. That's it for me for now, and I promise I'm going to try and figure something out, because I've realised when I'm looking at the screen on this, I'm not looking where the camera is, so it probably looks like I'm ignoring everyone watching it. I will try and figure something out so it's a bit better. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!